This is Studying the Word, Bible topics and difficult texts. Today's title, To Call Upon the Name of the Lord, based on Genesis 4:26. Let's begin.
Hello to everyone, this is Daniel Pyro, and this is Studying the Word, Bible topics and difficult texts. Did it happen to you before maybe that you were studying a text in the scriptures and suddenly you found a word, a phrase that you didn't quite understand? It happens many times when you go to the scripture, whether it's the Old Testament or the New Testament. So, good news! Here, using the Bible software, sometimes we will use Accordance Bible software, sometimes we will use Logos Bible software. Using the software, Bible software, we're going to study the scriptures, okay? I like to study the scripture and I want to share my studies with you. What are we going to use? The exegesis steps and process. Not all the steps, maybe all the time, but some of them, like the literary analysis, historical background. I recommend to study the word, to study a text using at least four different translations, What about keyword studies? That's essential, And of course, a word has meaning within a text, within a context. I wanted to say that. I mean, context is king when studying the scriptures. And well, of course, we will try to make an application out of the study. And today's study is this phrase, which is found in Genesis 4:26. To call upon the name of the Lord. What does it mean? Okay, right here I am in the Bible, in the Accordance Bible software. It's a user-friendly software. I like it. I have many resources. And today I'm going to use especially two resources, okay? This is going to be a quite quick study, but it's going to be an interesting study and you're gonna learn some things. I hope you do. Okay, we're gonna use study Bibles and commentaries. So first, let's read the text. I'm going to use right now the ESV version, okay? And it says, To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. And one wonders, what is to call upon the name of the Lord? It's just calling Lord, Lord, Adonai, Jehovah, Yahweh. Is that what it means? Before going to the Hebrew down here, by the way, in accordance, just as in other softwares, you can pop up, you can open as many windows as you like. Tabs, I have many tabs here opened and it's pretty nice. But before going to the Hebrew, let me read another English version. I'm going to use the Net Bible. This is the New English Translation, and it says the following. And a son was also born to Seth, whom he named Enosh. At that time, people, this version also uses the word people, although in the Hebrew, this word is in singular, okay, but in people it doesn't occur, it doesn't show in Hebrew. But anyways, at that time people began to worship the Lord. Here this version uses worship, not call, but worship. So what is the relationship between calling upon the name of the Lord and worshiping? Does it mean the same? We will see. Let me read one more version. Let me use the NIV, New International Version. Okay, it says, Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Okay, and one more. Maybe we should read this, the Message. Have you heard of that Bible? It's very interesting. It's a very interesting one. Okay, it says, and then Seth had a son whom he named Enosh. That's when man and woman, this uses inclusive language, that's when men and women began praying and worshiping in the name of God. Now, I really like this version. I just read it. I didn't look for it before. I'm going to highlight it because throughout the study, we're going to get to this conclusion that calling upon the name of the Lord means praying, singing to the Lord, worshiping in the name of God. Okay, so the most important word in the Hebrew, I might not get to read it right now, all the text, all the verse, but is this word, huhal, who has, according to the grammars and the lexicons, two meanings. One meaning probably means be defiled, profaned, and another meaning is beginning from scratch. So how it is being used, this, let me go back to the ESV, okay? Huhal, how is huhal being used in Genesis 4:26? Let's start using some commentaries first regarding this text, okay? We're gonna go to the point. So let me see here. Okay, let's talk real quick about the name Enosh. Bruce Walker has a commentary, a nice commentary on Genesis, and this commentary says, Enosh, his name means weakness, and in his weakness he returns to God with his petition and praises. That is what he writes, okay? And here, down here, he also comments the following: call on the name of the Lord. What does it mean? This is an image of prayer. According to Bruce Walker, is an image of prayer. What else? To enter into an intensive relationship as someone who calls. The covenant family, making its petition and praise in the name of the Lord, glorifies God, not humans. And when Bruce Walker mentions humans, he's referring to Cain and Lamech, the descendants. Okay, let's see something else. I have another commentary before going to the study Bibles. The Word Biblical Commentary. Gordon Wenham writes on Genesis. So, by the way, this Word Biblical Commentary is an exegetical commentary, very popular, well known, and it says the following: to call on the name of the Lord is used elsewhere in Genesis of the patriarchs. Here's Genesis 12:13, 21:33, and 26:25. And it seems to be an umbrella phrase for worship, most obviously prayer and sacrifice. So, I think we have a point, right? To call upon the name of the Lord, according to these commentaries, exegetical commentaries, means to worship God, to worship the Lord through sacrifice, through prayer. Now let's go to another commentary, okay? Let me use now this dictionary. It's a dictionary, it's a pretty nice dictionary. Let me show you. If you can ever have the time to look at it and maybe get it, it's really important. Let me see. It's the CBL. Here it is. Let me show you real quick. You might not get to see it as I would like to, but it says the complete biblical library. It has 4 items, okay, 4 modules. It has a dictionary for the Old Testament, for the New Testament, and it has study Bible notes for Old and New Testament. So I'm gonna read right now. Okay, thank you. Let's get rid of this. I'm gonna read right now the dictionary, okay? Hebrew English dictionary of the complete biblical library. It's interesting regarding the word huhal, begin. It says the first verbal root has the primary meaning to begin. Here's the roots, by the way: a het and a double lamet. Okay, although some scholars argue for a primary nuance to anti, based entirely upon an Arabic cognate. To begin functions in a temporal fashion throughout its usage in the Hebrew Bible. This is important. Why? Let me continue reading, please. It is in the beginning that an object is in its pristine state. Usage damages the pristine object. So when we read in Genesis 4:26, at that time humanity began, men and women began to call upon the name of the Lord. What the author is saying that, like, for the first time, and it's important, for the first time, people started to do worship to God publicly as a community, And sometimes we ask, why do we have to go to church? Why people go to church every weekend, maybe more than once a week? Why do they gather at houses, at homes, and they do worship and meetings? Why? The biblical basis, look, for the first time, for meetings, for worship, it's found in Genesis 4:26. So this text and this phrase, call upon the name of the Lord, is very, very important. What else? Now let's go to the study Bible, okay? The CBL Old Testament Study Bible. I highlighted something and I want to share with you. Look, Seth's son Enos means mortal one. By this time, people realized that everyone would die because Seth saw how Abel, his older brother, died. So maybe that's the reason of the name. Bruce Walker was saying that Enosh means weakness, but the CBL Old Testament Study Bible says that Enosh means mortal one. What else? Here, the Hebrew uses collective singular. He began to call. That's how the Hebrew is showing the text in the singular, third person masculine singular. But it could mean they began to call down a blessing in the name of the Lord, implying that He is the giver, that the Lord is the giver and preserver of life. And something else, it can also mean they began to call themselves by the name of the Lord, and thus might be called the sons of God. This is also very important because in the New Testament, the followers of Jesus were called Christians for the first time, not in Jerusalem, but in, if I'm not wrong, in Antioch, somewhere else. But why they were called Christians? Because they talked about Jesus and they lived like Jesus. So here in the Old Testament, in Genesis, to be called a son of God implied that those people were worshiping God, were obeying the Lord. That's why in Genesis 6 we find two groups: the Son of Man and the sons of God. Okay? Well, that's another topic, but I think it's related. Now, let's see at the Fire Bible students' notes. It says, regarding call on the name of the Lord, here. Apparently, Enosh was a pioneer for public prayer and worship, and that is truth. Here are some texts that you can confer later. Where calling on the name of the Lord refers to public worship. Okay. And what else can I learn from this NIV Cultural Background Study Bible? Edited by John Walton and Craig Kinner. They say the following. About a dozen times in the Old Testament, people are said to call on the name of the Lord. Okay? And what's the connection? Invoking God's presence at a cultic site. Eventually, and this is important, that's why I highlighted it. Eventually, humans sought to procure the presence of God through establishing cultic places and performing rituals there. Okay? So, finally, this commentary says, this verse then represents the beginning of religion. Look how important is Genesis 4:26 for worship, for religion, because there was now a group of descendants of Seth who started regularly to worship the Lord through sacrifices, through prayer, through worship, through songs as well. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. This is what I wanted to share with you through these very nice resources that Accordance Bible software has. But whether you like it or not, whether you wanna get this software or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is what the text said, and the study we did real quick. I'm gonna finish our study reading once again the Message version, which I like it pretty much. Okay, and we're gonna finish with this text. Okay, so a pretty nice translation for this text is found in this Bible, the Message, and it says, and then Seth had a son whom he named Enosh. That's when men and women began praying and worshiping in the name of God. So now you know that to call upon the name of the Lord means that women and men can pray, can worship in the name of God. And in the Old Testament, they would worship God through sacrifices as well. Okay, we'll see you next time. I hope you liked it. And if you liked it, please subscribe to this channel. And please share also the link. And we will see us very soon.